All right, hey folks, good evening. It's Darth checking in with you again. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I still don't feel like reviewing the rest of the Wheel of Time right now, but I watched The Witcher season 2, and that made me decide I wanted to go back and watch season 1. I'm going to review it. So I just finished watching episode 1, and for those of you tuning in for this, I'll tell you right now. I played The Witcher 2, and I played part of The Witcher 3, and I've watched my wife play The Witcher 3. So I've kind of like I know who Geralt is, and I know, who Yennefer is and Ciri and some of that stuff, right? But I'm not like super invested in the lore of it or anything. I haven't read the books, and it's not all like in order for me or really clear in my mind. So I say that to give you kind of some background on what I know, um, and that helps inform my perspective a little bit on the show as I watch it. Right, so watching episode 1. I came away, by the way, if you're a Witcher fan, not a Wheel of Time fan, and you're tuning in for this, I should let you know I'm not an editing guy. I'm mostly a writing guy. I kind of get writing beats and why and how they happen, right? So what I was really interested in here is that there were a few sentences that got said over and over again in episode 1, points that they wanted to reinforce throughout it early on and later. For instance, you'll never know if you made the right choice, got said to Geralt a few times, and he also got told the girl in the forest will be with you always, and he also got comments about the lesser evil, and then Siri heard a few times about, I kind of liked this. The one girl who Geralt had that really great, really like probably over choreographed, but I really enjoyed the fight scene in episode 1. Um, I wish there was more of that actually in the series. But in any case, the fight that he had with her, Renfrey, I think Renfrey. Um, I just lost my point on that. That's the great thing about doing these is sort of like an ad hoc like stream of consciousness type thing is that sometimes it's gone. So here we are, folks. Whatever I was gonna say there probably didn't matter too much, I guess. Let me hit on something that I think is more integral here, which is that an episode of a TV show does not have to answer questions, especially not a first episode. It doesn't have to answer everything, but I did come away with with some questions. Come away from it with some questions, and uh, some of them are even informed by having seen seasons 1 and 2. Like, uh, like for instance, it's little things, you know. Um, they gave the actress that plays Siri, it looks like she's got contacts in this episode. And I kind of looked it up because I was curious if she had brown eyes. She's got blue eyes in real life, so I don't know why they gave her contacts, but they really stand out in this episode. Um, Also, I'm not sure why all these families poisoned themselves. I thought that it had something to do with Ciri's powers and her being special, but the mouse rat and her grandmother witnessed her powers in the shaking of those glasses when she screamed and had a conversation that indicated that that was them just recognizing those abilities. So it doesn't seem likely that the other nobility staying at the castle would know it. Um, there's a few other weird things here. By the way, I should say, in general, I thought episode 1 looked really good. I thought that it had, a good CGI for like the overview of the city and the fight scene. Sorry. And the fight scenes, etc. The only thing that stood out to me as bad CGI, or just in general, I don't like the way they shot it, was Siri screaming. Every time that it happens, they do like this demonic undertone, and the camera does shaky cam and a cut, like a flash cut, and it does that to something that you see ripple at the same time, like the ground or a cup or something, and yeah, it's just I don't know. They really haven't worked on that too much in season two either. I get that they've got to show it as something unique, but it doesn't really carry over super well on screen. In any case, I didn't understand, was Renfrey like I know magic didn't work on her. Stregobor said that, and then later Geralt tries to use one of his signs to like not mind control but persuade her, and then it doesn't work, and she indicates the same thing. It's like midnight, folks. Well, almost. And I don't know. There was something weird about her. Was she like a prophet? Because she had foretellings about Ciri that she was saying to Geralt, and I didn't really get why. I know that he's got the nickname the Butcher of Blaviken. What I saw from The Witcher 2 was very different from what they portrayed here in terms of him getting stoned. Here he got a couple of rocks thrown at him. I think in The Witcher 2 it says that they killed him and that he got brought back to life by Yennefer or something like that. I probably got the lore really wrong here, folks. Um, but also, shouldn't Geralt have two swords? It's really weird to me that he's got one. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe he floats around with two at some later point, and I just can't remember right now. But having one was a little odd. I also. Oh my goodness, I gotta stop. um, I also noticed that he's got contacts in, which are kind of orange, and in season two, they're very yellow. I don't know if that switches at some point this season or if it's between seasons or what, but there's some little stuff like that that stood out to me here watching this first episode after having watched both seasons. Um, I think that considering that there are constraints in how you make a television show, there's constraints like for instance how to get certain actors and places together and how much screen time you give to one, pulling away from the screen time that you give to the other, etc. I liked a lot of the development for the big characters, and I thought that they generally did a good job of giving some personality to the small characters, such as Mouse Rat and the king um, that of Sintra, and that kind of thing. Of course, he just immediately takes an arrow to the eye, which was kind of shocking, right? Like they set him up to be a sort of fun like dad character, and then they immediately kill him, and you go, "Ooh, this is dark." Of course, probably you were already doing that because the opening scene, which again, good establishing thing for Geralt. Him getting held under the water like that, it was I don't know. I thought I was fine with that. I was fine with that. I could probably see some hardcore Witcher fans picking at that opening scene and not liking it for a couple reasons. But I thought it was pretty cool, and the little glib remark about it not being your lucky day to the deer just felt perfect, especially combined with this was something they did really well. It said that I'm a writing guy. they did a lot of show something, and then later on in another scene or from another perspective, sneaking in a little one-liner that reinforced what they showed. You know, they do that, then Geralt's got the line about the venison. He comes into town. They make a big deal about his clothes being nasty, but they don't particularly look nasty. But he kind of gets treated poorly by the bartender there. And then later on, you've got the mob hating him because he's a witcher and because they don't understand why he killed people, so they immediately jump to their prejudices. You know, there's some big things that are problematic from the writing, like given what I know from seasons 1 and 2 and the games that I've played, why did Mouse Rat not teleport them instead of running through the town? Also, we don't see him die, so I would have expected him to like come back later. You know, it's one of those things that if you don't see somebody die on screen, they're not really dead. But hey, I also thought that about Syrio Forel for a long time in Game of Thrones, and he never came back. Of course, neither did Lady Ironheart. Whatever. Um, but yeah, I was surprised that Mouse Rat didn't teleport them as I got to thinking back on it. I also didn't understand they were at a ball and they were chatting about how they could wait and deal with Nilfgaard later. And then we cut to the other perspective, and uh, some character, I don't remember who it was, said something about how the Queen of Sintra just won her first battle against Nilfgaard. And then we cut back over to the Nilfgaard and Sintra battle, and they definitely lose it. The guy takes the thing to the eye. The queen comes back with like a bloody stomach wound, and Nilfgaard is at the gates of Sintra. So, did they lose a lot of battles in a campaign between the girl saying that and the other thing? Or is Sintra like right on the border and Nilfgaard got there immediately? Or has there not been much of a campaign? Was it like two battles? I, I don't know. There are some questions like that I had. I also I said that they did a good job of setting up the main characters. Like I've got some of Ciri's personality here. Um, you know, I get that she is not particularly amused by the burdens of leadership, if you will, or of rule. She wants to go play with the street urchin kids. She's not super fond of dancing with that one guy. She's kind of more down to earth. Um, which is like a perfect early seed point, right? Because she's supposed to be a little like Geralt in the making of her own. Um, and she has power that she doesn't understand. Like they're building up towards something, so you have to have a character foundation somewhere. But it is pretty generic, chosen one mixed with princess stuff. You know, princess tomboy, reluctant chosen one arcs, that sort of thing. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. Mm-mm-mm. I will say, that ball sack armor is terrible looking. Also, Stregobor. Stregobor kind of was set up well as a character for early development. His little garden area, they very much like. I remember when this show was produced and the first season came out because I was excited about it. Looking back at it and trying to be a little more critical for review purposes, they really got a lot of inspiration from Game of Thrones, didn't they? They took the what's successful path of let's throw in a good bit of nudity, let's give ourselves a healthy dose of political intrigue, have some characters that people can like, and crank the violence up a little bit more than we maybe otherwise would have for television. Like, you can see it's not a formula per se, but it has the makings of one, especially if you're trying to make a fantasy series. Nowadays, it's just grimdark characteristics that translates well to screen, right? So you can see the influences of that in here. I thought that was interesting. I did really like Geralt talking to his horse, Roach, I think. It's named Roach after the French fish, right? Not after the character from the second. Yeah, I think it's named after the French fish. So, in any case, I've kind of rambled and jumped all over the place, but I'm exhausted, so forgive me for that, folks. Um, as an introduction to what The Witcher is, like I said, there's a lot of stuff unexplained in episode one, but it doesn't have to be. Like, why does Geralt have black eyes and, the veins crawling? You don't have to know, but it might be confusing for a new audience. I could see some folks fussing about that, but I don't think that. Here's what I want to draw a line at. I don't think that any of that sort of thing detracts from a viewer wanting to see episode two. And so long as episode one gets you to want to see episode two, which I think it does, I consider that mostly successful. Combined with the high production quality and writing that, it's got its weaknesses, it's got its flaws, but generally the writing team had a direction and it was consistent, and I could see that in the episode. I will say, if memory serves, it's going to get weaker throughout season one. But for episode one, I think this was a good episode. I think I'd give it, I think an 8. I think an 8's a good score for this episode. All right, guys, I'm going to watch episode 2 probably tomorrow or the next day. You should see another review from me soon. Have a good evening.